All right, let's talk about a tool that is seriously shaking things up for developers everywhere, GitHub Copilot. Think of it less as just another autocomplete and more like a true AI coding partner. We're going to break down how it works, what it can do for you and your whole team, and we'll even get into the super important stuff, like how to use it responsibly.
So, here's the game plan for today. We'll start with the big picture. What exactly is GitHub Copilot? Then we'll dive into how it actually thinks before exploring all the cool stuff beyond simple autocomplete, like chat and commands. And of course, we'll touch on the crucial topic of AI ethics. Finally, we'll see how this all scales up for your team. Let's jump in.
All right, first up, what is GitHub Copilot all about? What's the big idea here?
Just think about this for a second. What if your code editor, your IDE, could actually read your mind? That's really the heart of what Copilot is trying to do. It's not just correcting your syntax, It's about understanding your intent and anticipating what you're going to build next. Just making that whole coding flow feel seamless.
So, the goal here isn't to take over your job. Not at all. It's to make you better at it. You know all that tedious, repetitive, boilerplate code you have to write over and over again? Things like loops, basic function structures, all that setup stuff? Well, Copilot just automates that, freeing you up to spend your brainpower on the real problems, the big, complex challenges. Okay, so that all sounds pretty magical, but how does it actually work? Let's pop the hood and take a look at how this AI actually thinks. The secret sauce, the real magic ingredient, is context. See, Copilot isn't just looking at the one line of code you're typing right now. No way. It's got this wide-angle lens. It's looking at all your open tabs, where your cursor is, other files in your project. It's taking in the whole picture. And that is what lets it make suggestions that actually make sense. And it gets even cooler. It uses a clever trick called fill in the middle, or FIM for short. Think about your standard autocomplete. It only knows what came before your cursor, right? Well, FIM is different. It looks at the code on both sides, what's before and what's after, and then figures out the best way to fill in that gap. It's a total game changer for making suggestions feel way more logical.
Now, when Copilot gives you a suggestion, you're not just stuck with it. You are totally in the driver's seat. If you don't like the first idea, no problem. You can just open up a new tab and cycle through a bunch of different options. And you don't even have to take the whole thing. You can accept it word by word, giving you this really precise control over the final code.
Okay, this leads to a huge, and I mean huge, question. With all this amazing power, does this mean we can just, stop reviewing our code? Can we just lean back and let the AI take the wheel?
The answer to that is a hard, definite no. This quote says it all. Even when Copilot generates something like test cases, it might not cover every single scenario. It can miss those tricky edge cases. So here's the bottom line. Copilot is your co-pilot, not the pilot. You're still in charge, and you're still responsible for making sure your code is high quality, secure, and correct. That human oversight is absolutely essential. Okay, so suggesting code as you type is pretty cool, but that's really just the beginning. Copilot's capabilities go way beyond that. Let's get into the really interactive stuff now, the features that let you literally have a conversation with your AI partner. Think of these slash commands as giving direct orders to Copilot. Got a chunk of code that's just broken? Highlight it, type /fix, and boom, you get suggestions to fix it. Worried a function is too slow? Use /optimize. It'll analyze it and suggest ways to make it run faster. You can even use /help way at the beginning to spot potential issues in your requirements. It's incredibly powerful. So this brings us to something every single developer has to do: refactoring. Taking that old code, maybe it's a little messy, maybe it's inefficient, and making it better. So how does Copilot help with that?
Well, it all comes down to asking the right questions. Instead of just saying, fix this, try something like, show me how to improve the readability of this function, or suggest ways to enhance the maintainability of this code. When you ask specific questions like these, you get really targeted, useful advice that helps you improve the health of your code for the long run.
And hey, this isn't just for people who live in their IDE. If you're a fan of the terminal, you're covered too. The GitHub CLI has Copilot built in. You can just type GH Copilot suggests, describe what you're trying to do in plain English, and it'll spit out the exact shell command you need. Pretty neat, right? All right, let's shift gears a little bit, because using a tool as powerful as Copilot isn't just a technical decision. It's an ethical one too. So let's talk about what it means to use this AI partner responsibly. You've probably heard the saying, garbage in, garbage out, and it's especially true for AI. The quality of Copilot suggestions depends completely on the data it was trained on. If that data is narrow or biased, the AI suggestions could be too. That's why creating a fair AI requires using really diverse data, running constant checks, and, you guessed it, having a human in the loop to catch problems. Remember, you are always that final check.
Okay, another massive concern is intellectual property, right? The last thing you want is to accidentally use someone else's copyrighted code in your project. This is exactly what public code filtering is for. An admin can flip a switch to turn this on, and it basically acts like a security guard. It checks every single suggestion against all the public code on GitHub. If it finds a match, that suggestion gets blocked. It's a really important safety net.
You also have the power to tell Copilot, hey, ignore these specific files, which is perfect for secrets or sensitive data. But, and this is a big but, there's a little catch you need to know about. Let's say you have a file that isn't excluded. If that file calls a function from a file that is excluded, well, Copilot can still see that function's name and structure and use that for context. It's a subtle point, but a super important one to keep in mind.
So far, we've been talking a lot about how you, the individual developer, can use Copilot. But what happens when you bring it to a whole team, or even an entire company? Let's look at how Copilot scales up for collaboration and gives admins the control they need.
Okay, the code review process. This is where things get really cool. When someone on your team opens a pull request, Copilot can jump in and automatically write a summary of all the changes. It'll give you a nice paragraph and a clean bulleted list. And get this, reviewers can actually ask Copilot questions about the code right inside the pull request. It makes the whole process so much faster and smarter. And for bigger organizations where you need tight control and governance, Copilot has you covered. Admins get access to audit logs, so they can see exactly who changed what when it comes to important security settings, like that public code filter we just talked about. It's all about making sure there's clear visibility and accountability across the whole team. And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. Look, tools like GitHub Copilot aren't just a fad. They are quickly becoming a standard part of how software gets built. They're automating the boring stuff and speeding up the hard stuff. So it makes you wonder, as this becomes the norm, what's the next big skill developers will need to learn? Maybe it's not just about being a great coder anymore. Maybe it's about being great at asking the right questions, at challenging an AI's suggestions, and at learning how to be a truly effective partner with these new tools. It's a lot to think about.